Hello, I'm Tony from Bonner's Music, and this is my very quick guide on how to create that iconic rock piano sound, the type of sound that was made famous by Elton John. So for this particular video I'm using a Nord Stage 3, however this is perfectly achievable with lots of different stage pianos, including something like the Decibel S7, which I have next to me as well. So before we start, just a little bit of history about how this sound evolved and how it came about. It all started in the mid-1980s with a keyboard called the Roland RD1000, which was the best stage piano of the day. I actually have one here behind me, and as you can see, it's a big beast. It weighs an awful lot. It's got beautiful wooden keys on it. I mean, it really feels lovely to play. And Elton John used to use one on stage in the 80s, and the reason he used it was because he said that it lived and breathed and reacted just like an acoustic piano. And at the time it was the closest thing you could get to an acoustic piano, but in a digital instrument. So if we fast forward a few years into the 1990s, Elton John went back to using a grand piano on stage, probably because it looked a lot better than having just a portable keyboard on stage. But he was using a MIDI grand piano, so he wasn't actually using the sound of the traditional acoustic. It was a MIDI grand, and it was plugged into a rack of sound modules that were somewhere off stage. And within that rack of sound modules was the sound of the RD1000. It was actually in a module called an MKS20. And he used to layer that sound with other acoustic piano sounds, and an acoustic piano he used to use an awful lot was the sound of a Yamaha piano. So the type of Elton John sound that I'm going to try and create today is that particular blend of the two sounds. So it's the sound of the Roland RD1000 mixed with a sample of a Yamaha grand piano. So if you take your keyboard, you need to find the sound of the RD1000. Now on the Nord Stage 3, it's actually called DigiGrand 2. So if you find the DigiGrand 2 sound within the piano section, you'll find a sound like this. As you can hear, it's quite a synthetic sound, but it does have a certain character, a little bit of kind of bite and attack to it. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to add some EQ to that just to brighten it up even more. So just turn the treble EQ up there. So now I've got my DigiGrand sound with a bit of EQ. Now what I want to do is find a Yamaha grand piano sample. So I've already got one lined up here. It's called Studio Grand 2. That's what Nord call it. If we press the piano info button, actually tells me it's a Yamaha C7. Now there's actually also in the Nord, there is also a Yamaha S4, which they call Bright Grand. Now actually that's the one that I'm going to use. I prefer that sound myself. So there's my grand piano sound. It's a Yamaha sample. Again, I'm going to just add a little bit more top EQ to brighten it up a little bit. And then I'm going to mix the two together and just take the Yamaha sound and just back it off a little bit as far as the volume goes. So we've got the Roland RD1000 up at maximum volume, and that is just being bolstered up a little bit by the Yamaha sound, which I've backed off to about 3/4. And then you get a sound like this. So that is your typical type of Elton John sound. It works for lots and lots of his tunes. So if we play something different, I don't know. But also let's just add another sound in there now. So there was a song that Elton John did called The One, which was in the mid-1990s. It wasn't a massive hit, but it was a really nice sound. And again, he used that type of piano sound, but mixed with a synthesizer pad sound as well. So I've got the type of sound here. If we just have a listen to this, it's that nice big synth pad sound. So if you want to play that particular tune, and that particular voice also works well for the middle section of Song for Guy. That particular piano sound, it just works well for all sorts of rock type music. I've also taken it one step further with my particular setup, and I like to add in the sound of the Hammond organ as well. So if we just start with the piano voice again that we've got, so we've got that layered piano sounds that, what I'm going to do now is just bring in the sound of the organ as well with it. So Elton John has really influenced the style of so many of us keyboard players, but it's such a great sound and it works very, very well on stage. So remember, when you're programming your piano sounds, that what sounds good at home isn't necessarily what works well on stage. When I'm sitting playing at home, I use a completely different piano sound, something a lot more mellow, perhaps with a bit more reverb on it as well. But when you're playing live, you want something nice and bright that cuts through. So that's my particular favourite choice of piano sound. So it's a Roland RD1000 mixed with the sound of a Yamaha piano. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in another one of my keyboard demonstration movies.